I'm Patrick Pacheco. Coming up on Theater All the Moving Parts, a chat with Tony nominated actor Patrick Page about how good it is to play bad. Hello, I'm Patrick Pacheco. Welcome to this virtual episode of Theater All the Moving Parts. Who doesn't love a good villain? And Patrick Page plays them better than most, including Hades in the musical Hadestown, for which he was nominated for a Tony. But don't type him. The protean actor has also played Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick.
It's so good to be with you, and I thoroughly enjoyed your performance in the one-person show, All the Devils Are Here, streaming through the Shakespeare Theater Company. Patrick, why is it that villains almost always walk away with the show?
Well, for the same reason I think that I wanted to do the show, which is that we all have this darkness in us. And if we didn't, we couldn't connect with the villains at all. They would seem completely foreign to us, and we wouldn't be able to even to follow the story. But because we all have envy and avarice and jealousy and all of the things that motivate a villain, narcissism, we've all got these things inside us. The villain allows us to sort of go along for the ride and act it out in a safe way, so that we don't actually have to do these terrible things, but we can experience them and then have the catharsis of having the villain get his or her comeuppance as well.
Why this play now in this political and social climate?
Well, I've always been interested with the psychology of evil, but over the last 4 or 5 years in particular, I've noticed how contagious evil is. In Hamlet, for example, Claudius is the source of the evil. He's the infected being. But because he's the king, he's at the top of the hierarchy. And so that evil trickles down all around him and infects all of Elsinore, all of Denmark, because his evil then attracts enablers, it attracts sycophants, it attracts other people who see that this way of life seems to be working. And it allows them, as I'm saying, we all have this inside of us. And so to be able to let it out, to be given permission to let it out from the highest levels of the government, that's something that's pretty dangerous. And you saw that, for example, on January 6th.
Two of the most fascinating villains, obviously, in the show are Richard III, who you just mentioned, and also, of course, Iago. As an actor, how does one get into the mind of a psychopath?
It's interesting you should ask, because the first time I played Iago, I had the wrong diagnosis for the character. And so I really didn't find him at all. It was only when Michael Kahn was directing me in that second version that I got the right diagnosis for the character. And then I was able to study psychopathy in depth over a period of about a year and wrap my mind around the idea that there are people living around us, quite a few of them, in fact, who simply have no conscience and no empathy. And as an actor, that's something that's very difficult to accept, because what an actor is taught to do, and sometimes I think what we do naturally, and the reason we're drawn to acting, is to have empathy for a character, to be the advocate of the character, to be the person who understands where that character is coming from. And if a character is without conscience and empathy, they are in a way less human. They're not more human. We're always looking as an actor for the character's humanity. And yet in Iago, when you look for humanity, there's kind of a blank hole where the humanity should be. And so it's really about shutting off a part of oneself more than accessing a part of oneself. More like playing a kind of disability, like playing someone who cannot see, or who is colorblind, or who cannot hear, who simply doesn't have access to some of the sensory apparatus that you and I have. And once I was able to do that and really wrap my mind around it. And for example, I used to, as Iago, I would sort of walk around the city of New York and just put myself in his mind. And what I saw then, when I had no conscience or empathy, was I saw opportunities. I was a predator and everyone around me was prey. Of course, I didn't act on these things, but let's say I saw someone eating dinner and their purse was sitting alongside of them. Well, if I was psychopathic, there's absolutely nothing that stops me from simply taking that purse if I can get away with it. Anything that would advantage me, if I could get away with it, I would do if I lacked conscience or empathy. So it was about really accepting that reality, which took me a long, long time to accept, playing Iago. Richard III is different because Richard has a powerful personal motivation in terms of what he's been told about himself from the day he was born, which is that because of the way he is shaped physically, he is bound to be villainous. And he's been told that over and over and over again, to the point where he believes it and he acts it out.
Well, then, since this world affords no joy to me but to command, to check, to o'erbear such as are a better person than myself, I'll make my heaven to dream upon the crown. And whiles I live to account this world but hell, until this misshaped trunk that bears this head be round impaled with a glorious crown.